Yeah. Well, reading about it.
No, I'm looking for something. I'm sorry, what's that? That's a big job. Nothing's not rain. We're all good and all. Hey, we're quick like that.
Yes. I can see. He's this way for
Thank goodness. I will. August. Is there one of you?
I don't think we did spend that.
It's 4 o'clock. I'll call the Columbia Municipal Planning Commission meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call.
Vice Mayor McBroom,
Here.
Dr. Martin,
Here.
Mayor Mulder, Mr. Shannon,
Here.
Mr. Sloan,
Here.
Ms. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Gold.
His absence, it was, we have heavy hearted with that. So. The item 4 is going to be an acknowledgement of the official communications of the City Council and Annexation and Zoning.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So you did have 2 items that were forwarded to City Council for review at the last council meeting. The first one being the final consideration of Ordinance 4547, which is a PUD master plan revision there at Honey Farm Way and Nashville Highway. It was approved on the final consideration, and the applicants already made a request for their final PUD plan that you'll be seeing here next month. Also, the first consideration of the annexation and rezoning of property off Lucia Road was deferred until tomorrow's council meeting. And those were the two items.
Thank you, Mr. Keltner. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Keltner, on those items? Seeing none, we'll go to item 5 on our agenda is going to be the approval of minutes from last month's meeting. I did have a chance to review those, and I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Shannon. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote on those minutes.
Vice Mayor McBroom,
Aye.
Dr. Gordon,
Aye.
Mr. Shannon,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Goode.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Item 6 is the review of bonds and letters of credit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All letters of credit are in order or in the process of being updated.
Thank you. As we move into the consent items and discussion items, I'd like to start with making a motion to rearrange our agenda a little bit. I'd like to move the consent item down to our first discussion item for discussion. I'd also like to move, just based on the audience here tonight, it looks like item 8 is the Double Branch Road. I'd like to move that up as our second item for discussion.
Second.
I have a second by Dr. Martin. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Vice Mayor McBroom,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Shannon,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Goode.
Aye. Agenda has been amended. All right, so the first item for discussion is going to be the request from Wyatt, I'm going to try my best, Wolfie, maybe, Wolf, I'm not sure on the pronunciation of it. For final plat approval of Columbia Mall Lot 1 located at 800 South James M. Campbell Boulevard, being tax map 100 in Group L, Parcel 6.
Thank you, Chairman. The applicant is seeking approval for final plat to establish a public utility drainage and access easement, as well as a utility easement for Columbia Power and Water Systems at the property located at 800 South James Campbell, the mall. This lot is a part of a larger commercial development. Of course, on April the 9th, 2025, the Planning Commission granted approval for the preliminary plat, site development plan, and the alternative performance. This prior approval created the vested right to develop the city 4C character district standards outlined in the current zoning ordinance. The development is subject to, of course, Ordinance 4400, the current zoning ordinance. The final plat, start off saying the final plat conforms to the preliminary plat with the exception that was noted in the staff report, and that's referring to the access easement, the extension that has not been included with what's been presented tonight. Access easement to extend that PUD-AE to include the area between the undeveloped parcel 7 Bruce site and the Valvoline, and we don't have the display up, so I apologize for that. But the Valvoline site reaching the adjacent property line, the developer is requesting that the commission consider not requiring this access easement to be extended due to they feel that it could interfere with future development plans for the property in that area. So the historic site plan does show, if you could pull that up, the little circle that I've got displayed there. That's an historical site plan, and that's the area we're talking about. That is not shown on the final plat that is before you tonight, and the request has been made by the applicant not to include that as part of the extension of that PUD-AE, but the access management regulations require that. Of course, I defer to engineering in regards to the access management. But also displayed as the final plat that's before you and circled in red is the area of discussion. Otherwise, it conforms to the preliminary plat standards, excluding this portion that we're talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Archibald.
Thank you.
I know we have people that signed up. I don't know who represents necessarily the applicant versus Alan's the applicant. All right, well, I'll just go on down. I think I'll just start with Mr. Bossman is the first name on here, and then Drew Ann would be next. I don't know if you have any comments or concerns you'd like to get up and speak on. We'll call Mr. Bossman first.
Yeah, I'm Steve Bossman, local business owner and property owner in Maury County. I've been here for like over 30 years now. And I take a lot of pride in this community, how I take care of the properties, how I treat my neighbors. And I take a lot of pride in that. And we're the adjacent owners down there at the movie theater. You know, I was part of it when it was very first built, the movie theater itself, working for my uncle, putting in heat and air conditioning and seeing it become a very vibrant piece of property for the whole community. People always loved going there and shopping there, doing their thing. And over the years, it kind of went to the past. Now the whole group, the Highland Group owns it now. And my hat's off to them. They've done a really good job on working and bringing that vibrant activity back to it. And I want to be good neighbors to them. I don't know the gentleman, but I wish him good luck. And I want us all be in a working relationship that we can make it better for Maury County and all the community of Maury County so they can get from one end to the access to the other, all up through the Shady Brook corridor. And I appreciate your guys' time and everything that you guys do for Maury County. And we look forward to making it a better place.
Thank you, Mr. Bossman.
Thanks.
Duran Weir.
I am Drew Ann Weir. I work with Steve. I've had the pleasure of working alongside him for a long time, probably about 20 years now. We're excited to be here. This is something that we care significantly about. This is something that's very important for the mall development as well as our parcel in front of the mall. The non-conforming component, as I understand it, of the plat as it's being presented is related to the access that would connect the primary mall entrance to our site. If we're able to share, are we able to share some history that we have just to, for everybody to be on the same page?
You have 3 minutes. You can.
3 minutes, that's fine. 3 minutes is good. So what was already presented was the original plan, which was from the 80s. Which showed the initial development, which created the street, which is now Shady Brook Street, as well as the loop road, the ring road around the mall. In that plan, it also shows where there was going to be a curb cut off of Shady Brook Street, which was newly created, which would allow pass through from Shady Brook Street all the way to the mall entrance, as shown there. This is the right side. To our knowledge, this entrance has been in place since the property was originally developed nearly 45 years ago. It's worked well for everybody involved. And we're asking that the Planning Commission require as part of this approval that the access be extended, the left turn, not just from the mall entrance to the new building. Some additional history, I don't know if I'm allowed to read, but what we understand is that the left turn, which would provide access, restore the access, currently where our property line is, there is a concrete barrier that is preventing, it was installed maybe in 2022-ish. We've been working on this. We bought the property in 2021. We've been trying to get this resolved for about 4 years. The concrete barrier and the lack of connectivity here has certainly impacted our ability as the owner of 3.5 acres of excellent property. It doesn't allow us to develop the property the way that we wish we could. There are retailers who are wanting to be here. They've been circling this area for several years, and their primary concern with our site is that there's only, without the access, which has essentially been cut off with the barrier, there's only one way for them to get in, and there's no connectivity to the mall. And so we're asking the Planning Commission to, enforce the access regulations here and have that open back up so that we can all participate in cross-travel for this site. We think it's important for both vehicular access. We think it's important for pedestrian access. We think it's important for emergency services. And that's kind of where we stand. We, like Steve mentioned, we are here. We've been here for a long time. We care. We want this to look nice. We want to do great things here. We want to work together with the owners, but we need this access opened.
Thank you, Ms. Weir. Appreciate your time being here. Next, we have a Michael Santiago. It's on the list. Not present. Will Holshoff.
Good evening, everyone. A lot of familiar faces, and I'm Will Holshoff, president of Highland Capital. Got news of Chaz's situation, so we'll be thinking of him here, but appreciate the kind words from Mr. Bosselman. Had the pleasure of meeting him for the first time here tonight. It is a unique situation that we have stepped into as new owners of the entire mall redevelopment. That wall that was referenced by Mr. Duran was there that we were unaware of. Again, seemingly stepping into the situation. The access in question, we believe access is access, and access discussions between neighbors are one thing. Dedicating and not having the flexibility for future changes, developments, and that flexibility is another. So with that being said, we would like to not dedicate this and continue along the already agreed upon and approved preliminary plat. Thank you.
Thank you. And it looks like Mr. O'Leary, are you here to speak as well on it?
Alan O'Leary, WS Engineers and Surveyors. I answer technical questions you may have.
Okay. I think at the moment I don't have any. You're here for that representation. I appreciate that so much. So just for clarification, I guess I'll start the discussions on this. It looks like our city ordinance requires access management plan.
That's correct.
And we have an engineering recommendation to continue and extend that PUD AE connection there, which has, for lack of a better word, been in existence I won't say my whole life. I don't want to give my exact age, but as long as I can remember, that's been there. I don't know if anybody else has any questions before I make a motion or any kind of discussion, or I can make a motion and then we can open for discussions. I'm going to make a motion to approve the plat as presented here today, subject to the technical comments, including the engineering's comment that the PUD AU access be, that they extend that access to encompass the drive between those two, the adjacent lots there. Is that sufficient to include the referenced access that the applicant is wanting to not allow, that we deem as needed and requesting?
Yes, sir. It sounds like you're looking to approve it with the carrying forward of the regulation of the access management ordinance.
That's right, carrying forward and requiring that access to be maintained and included there. It's been in existence forever.
I'll second that.
We have a second by Dr. Martin. Any discussion on the item?
You're talking about leaving that open.
I'm talking about, making that access remain accessible to the adjoining properties on it. That's correct. Good?
Yep.
Any other questions?
Sort of a side question, maintenance of that. So is that would be a city property at that point?
No, so there was a lot of misinformation floating around here recently about roads and things, but this is not a city road. The applicant has not requested for the internal drive that was created previously for their new out parcel to be a city maintained road. It is classified as a thoroughfare with us. But this is just concerning the easement portion. So this is a plat outlining the public access easement. So it would remain their property, their maintenance.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Vice Mayor McBroom,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Shannon,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Goode,
Aye. Item passes as discussed. Next item for our discussion, item 2 on our agenda, which was now.
She's already moved it.
Yeah, so it's moved now. Okay, perfect. I want to make sure.
There.
I think this next item is probably where, after we finish that one, that will be, I mean, yes, obviously, if there's anybody that wants to leave at this moment, they're welcome to before we start the next item, but my gut says a lot of these people are staying for the next item, so. All right. Request from Nick Morin for annexation with plan of services approval, including a comprehensive plan land use designation amendment from rural transition to suburban neighborhoods with the default zoning designation of CD3L, Neighborhood Large Lot Character District, for property at tax map 67, parcel 1, located off Double Branch Road.
Hey, Chairman. The applicant requests annexation of comprehensive plan amendment along with the plan of service for 206.96 acres located in the north side of Double Branch Road. The connection will be made into Honey Farms PUD via road access to Beeswax Street and also the Greens Mill Road PUD as well. With the annexation request, the applicant is requesting CD3L zoning district. Current Connect Columbia classifies this parcel as rural transition. Rural transition does not allow for the CD3L zoning classification. The subject site is located on the north side of Double Branch Road and to the south side of Honey Farms. The property does adjoin property within the city limits via bordering Honey Farms and Greens Mill PUD. The Development Review Committee evaluated this application at its June 2025 meeting with comments associated in this request. A conditional water availability letter has been issued by CPWS, noting it's valid until 5/20/2026. Current planning anticipates that this will be completed at the end of 2028, since they were not allowed or not able to meet water source until then. A concept plan has been submitted with the annexation and comp plan amendment, which shows 250 residential units, an amenity center, a pool, and a pool house. Please note that this concept plan is non-binding. It is also worth noting that the property could develop to different standards if the comprehensive plan is changed to suburban neighborhood. The following zoning districts would be permitted: neighborhood large lot CD3L, neighborhood CD3, general urban corridor CD4C, only along arterial roadways, manufactured home, parks, residential PUDs, and mixed use and or civic. The proposed development is not consistent with the future land use elements of the comprehensive plan, Connect Columbia being rural transition as it is currently. Concept plan submitted demonstrates that it's possible to develop the site in conformity with the standards of the requested character district of CD3L. Section 2.3 of the zoning ordinance, newly annexed property zoning ordinance 4400, page 37, newly annexed properties shall have an initial zoning of CD3L. However, an application for rezoning to other districts may be considered concurrently with the action for annexation. That's why you do not have a rezoning request here, because its base zoning is coming in at CD3L. Section 8.519C1, all petitions for rezoning shall be consistent with the comprehensive plan and applicable to local planning. The petition for rezoning shall not be approved by the city council unless the rezoning is consistent with and not in conflict with the comprehensive plan or applicable local plans as determined by the Planning Commission. See Section 8.5.20. The Planning Commission is not obligated to recommend approval of a request which would bring existing zoning into conformity with the comprehensive plan prior to the time such change is warranted by the findings of 8.519H, 4E, and ELF. Some of the notes from the DRC, from Maury County Highway Department, they want to coordinate any potential offsite improvements required when the development happens. Columbia Wastewater is concerned with a development near Double Branch Road, which might require its own bore under the creek in order to obtain sanitary sewer access. However, they go on to state the annexation of this property and proper planning of on-site sanitary sewer systems could benefit the sewer system of Honey Farms subdivision in multiple ways, including eliminating a publicly owned pump station and privately owned grinder pumps throughout future infrastructure projects. In addition to this, page 6, area of change in my staff report packet highlights Connect Columbia's establishment, the areas of change policy designated for subject site as protected. These are the areas that are not expected or do not desire to experience significant changes in character. Occasionally, new or infill development within these areas may enhance quality of place and improve connectivity and transportation options. However, the land use patterns established as major or intense development should provide clear public benefits. The review process should emphasize compatible and adequate public services. The Planning Commission is the recommending body for the annexation and comp plan amendment, and Section 8520 of the zoning ordinance lists criteria for Planning Commission action. The City Council is the final approving authority for this request. Templates are provided at the end of the report to assist the Planning Commission in crafting proper formatted motions. Thank you, Chairman. That is my report.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that detailed report. We have a significant amount of people that have signed up for discussion on this item. Before we get started on that, I'm going to ask that, if anyone has already addressed your same concerns, I would just graciously ask that you just acknowledge when I call your name that your concerns have already been addressed. That being said, it looks like the first signed up is Debbie Beams.
Good evening. I'm not a public speaker. Y'all know that.
Just state your name and address and your time will start.
Debbie Beams, 2291 Double Branch Road. My husband and I own property adjacent to this proposal. We're strongly opposed to the comp plan amendment. We're strongly opposed to the annexation. The property is currently zoned A2A, rural residential. One of the reasons that we are in opposition, the property behind us is at a higher elevation, and so any rooftops, more pavement will cause more runoff water and possibly cause the creek to overfill like it has in the past. 2021 it was full. 2010 is when the major flood happened. It's a significant topographical difference between the top of the hill of this property to our property. They would have to do a lot of blasting to put in a road that accesses from Double Branch to build the road to get up to the what I call the field, where it's been farmed for many, many years. If you build a street that touches the back of the project on Double Branch Road, you'll have to build another bridge because it crosses the creek. I believe this is premature in asking for this. They should build connectivity before they ask for the annexation, because Double Branch Road is not wide enough to handle more construction traffic. Double Branch Road is already inundated with construction traffic going to the landings on Greens Mill Road, and that's a daily occurrence. Lots, morning till night. So we're strongly opposed, and we want that to be of record.
Thank you, Ms. Beams. We have Jerry Lassiter as the second name on my list.
Jerry Lassiter, 2251 Double Branch Road. My wife and I own property there, and we have property that abuts, a lot that abuts that one that then abuts this proposed annexation area. And we are also strongly opposed to that. And some of the things I heard tonight that really make the hair stand up on the back of my neck is things like, well, we don't know what kind of development we're going to have. We might put trailers there. We might put manufactured homes there. You know, they're asking for an open checkbook, and something that I had the privilege of being on school board in Murray County for 9.5 years. And when I look at this, between this, the landings, McClure Farms, the county's going to be in trouble here real quick. There's not school places. There's not places to put the children. You know, we were already overcrowded. So that means all the citizens, including, you know, the citizens of Columbia, are going to have to pay extra money to build more schools quickly, and instead of a slow growth. So I just want to say that my wife and I are in opposition to this, and hopefully the council will reflect that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lassiter. Next, we have Kevin Shepard, I believe is. Thank you very much. Sabine Barnett. Try my best. I'm sorry if that's incorrect.
Sabina Barnett.
Sabina.
My husband and I live at 2632 Double Branch Road. And I just want to speak for our whole community on Double Branch Road that at least all of the neighbors that I'm aware of are strongly against this proposal and ask you not to support this. The land in question, Lepley Farm, map 67, parcel 1.00, has been designated as rural conservation under Columbia's official comprehensive plan. An amendment to this plan to reverse this designation would affect an entire farming community and ruin the rural nature so important to Murray County. In addition, this proposal wants a change from the A2-A zoning to the much smaller lot CD-3L with a higher density housing of possibly 250 homes or more. This lies outside the city limits and was not part of the urban growth boundary. The area in question has federally protected and sensitive watershed and creek areas, Rutherford Creek and its tributaries, protected wildlife and migration zones, inadequate infrastructure. Double Branch Road, as Ms. Beams already said, has already been ruined by the construction entrance from the landings, and the rural preservation goals for this corridor, which was always designated as the rural part of the county. In addition, we understand that there are proposals to bore sewer lines under the tributary to Rutherford Creek, and it's our understanding that when a project involves disturbing a federally protected waterway like Rutherford Creek, the developer is required to, number one, determine whether the water is jurisdictional according to the Clean Water Act. Number two, file a Section 404 permit with the Army Corps of Engineers for stream and wetland disturbance. Number three, obtain Section 401 water quality certification by TDEC. And number four, include environmental assessments such as endangered species, stream impact, etc. Double Branch Road is a rural road. It's a farming community where many residents, including ourselves, raise livestock. It cannot support traffic from a high-density housing project. So we'd like the Planning Commission to assure us that if you go through with this, that all of these permits will have been taken care of. Thank you for considering our request.
Thank you, Ms. Barnett. James Mays.
James Mays, 2111 Double Branch Road. I was made aware of this proposal probably 3 days ago. I've had my head filled with so much information and doing research and trying to pull stuff together to find out what exactly is happening here. I've learned a few. I don't consider myself to be an old man, but I've learned a few things over the years, and one of those is was kind of hard learned, but is the saying that just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think that's kind of the situation here. There's so much. I mean, I've looked at all kinds of state laws and statutes and going, what are we dealing with? But the big concern here, one, is where does it stop? Because you're talking about rezoning this, and I understand. Actually, today I had a great conversation with Mr. Tony, who spent quite a bit of time with me, explaining some stuff. I think one of the things for big confusion is that on the continued planning for Columbia, Connected Columbia, the UGP or UGB is not accurate, and the actual line that it shows would show this development to be outside of the UGB. But as I was corrected today, I learned a lot today actually. That line is actually way, way out there. Including almost Oak Lake, it seems like, all the way out there. But my question is, with this land zoned as it is for protected conservation, and we've already conceded such a huge chunk of this to the landing. If you go through with this request, where does it end? How much of this land do we rezone and repurpose and find ways to make more money off of it? And it's deeply concerning because, just to reiterate on the environmental level, the amount of species that cannot speak for themselves have been displaced by all the work from the landing. And I assume most of those have migrated over to this wooded area that they can be sustained. There's 15 to 20 federally protected species in this area alone. Rutherford Creek is part of the Duck River watershed. It has a lot of protected species in it. And I realize that because the city has the ability to annex this, that it's within the rights of the city to choose to do that if they find it beneficial to their plans. But I would strongly suggest that we kind of pump the brakes on it and do it right and get the surveys done that need to be done and see what's going on environmentally and how the impact of this would potentially negatively impact the Rutherford Creek and also downstream to Duck River. So I would ask that this committee concentrate on being a good steward of what we're put in charge of and do what's right for it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mays. So we've heard the concerns about runoff and Double Branch Road and the infrastructure there. Obviously, school capacity, non-conformance with the comp plan. So I'll keep going, but like I said earlier, I just appreciate anybody acknowledging that maybe their concerns have already been stated as we go down the list here. Next, we have Phil Davis.
Phil Davis, 2148 Double Branch. I'm not very well at speaking and I'm emotional, so I apologize to begin with. If you've ever been on Double Branch, you'll see tractors, horses, you'll see the residents walking up down Double Branch for exercise. I'm afraid that you're taking away the barrier between the city and our local community of what we use our area for. We use it for us to get out and talk to our neighbors. We get out and we walk the streets. And I also read in there somewhere where you had to make bridges or whatever able to withstand emergency services. I don't know if you've been down Double Branch or not, but there's several little concrete bridges between 31 and the proposed property. I don't know that bridge can hold an 80,000 pound piece of equipment for service. And I don't see anywhere where they've addressed that, because we know that this emergency services will have to get there quick. And I don't know that those bridges can hold that, or they just go across the river. And I know we've already talked about erosion. I've got erosion in the back of my property. I back up to Rutherford Creek. I have to use a 10-foot extension ladder to get down to the creek because of the erosion already. Across the creek, it's a 25-foot erosion, and I invite any of you that were to come out and look at it. I'm at 2148. Come over and I'll gladly take you back to see it. I strongly oppose this just because of our community is supposed to be protected by that zoning, and I appreciate if you turn this down.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Next is Russ Tether.
Good evening. Russ Tether. I live in Honey Farms at 2928 Beeswax. I'm extremely concerned about connecting our community, a small, quiet community, and making it into a major thoroughfare with all the development going on around us. We've got a new possible Walmart going in the front, McDonald's, storage facility, access to Spring Hill if you make a right out of there. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have way too much traffic for what our community was designed for. If you look, I don't know if anybody's ever been down Beeswax Street, but there's a very sharp turn, almost 90 degrees. They're narrow roads, and they can barely handle the traffic we have now. We have problems with parking in the community, problems with emergency vehicles getting through, garbage pickup, things like that have happened. And adding all this additional traffic, I don't know if there's been a traffic study done as to how much traffic this would add. But the houses are extremely close to the road. You really can't widen the road because you'd take away, somebody wouldn't have a driveway large enough to park a car. And with vehicles coming through at a high rate of speed, there's a possibility a house could get hit. I mean, at that 90-degree turn. I don't think our road was designed to be a major thoroughfare. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tether. Tracy Davis.
Good evening. Tracy Davis, 2148 Double Branch. I'm married to the emotional man. I have one more thing to say. Well, two. He's living his best life. He's living his dream. And it's slowly being taken away as Double Branch is breaking down. Literally, we go out and buy gravel and fill in the sides of the road from the dump trucks from the other subdivision. Right now, I have cracks in my ceiling. I have literal drywall plaster falling off of my walls from the explosions that they set off for these subdivisions. I know they're small, but we all know what limestone does. It travels. And that reverberation, who's going to continue to pay for the upkeep of my house? It's not roads that are going in that's doing it. It's the homes and the subdivisions. I keep waiting. Well, we'll wait another year before we take care of that. I think I'll be dead before that happens. But I just ask that you consider very much, especially when you find out nothing is set in stone on this. It could be a whole bunch of manufactured housing on very, very, very small lots. We can't take any more traffic pulling out of my driveway onto Double Branch. I can't tell you how many times we've almost been hit by cars that are coming out of nowhere. So again, as a board, I ask you to consider our way of life as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Jim Goolsby. I see Jim Goolsby. We have Suzanne Goolsby.
I'm Suzanne Banks Goolsby. I've lived out there for over 40 years, and this is devastating to us. My daddy owned 500 acres out there at one time, and everybody out there's got a lot of land. We've raised cattle, we've raised hay, we've raised horses. People have got their own lives to live. Our bridge out there cannot take any more traffic. It's about had it. There are dump trucks every day. Now that they put up all the red lights on Nashville Highway, semi-trucks are using our road as a cut through. And they go on Duck Greens Mill Road up to Port Royal to get on the interstate. Every day we're seeing semi trucks. And just like yesterday, they're cleaning out underneath the bridge on Greens Mill Road. They can't get that equipment down Greens Mill around that roundabout. Huge equipment. They came double branch, and I saw them come across that little bridge and thought it was going to fall in. And we cannot handle it anymore. We don't have nowhere to put it, and everybody out there loves their land. We respect each other. We do not want all these houses coming out there on half an acre lots. It's ridiculous. The homes that they built on Greens Mill, right across from friends of ours that live on Greens Mill, they're just like condos side by side, and they're halfway built. That they complain about them all the time. A lot of people that I know that live there say they are. We don't want that out there. We don't want any more traffic. We get the traffic from Les Chapel. We get the traffic from Greens Mill, Claire Mathis. All of them use our cut through. And now that they put up more red lights, we're getting more and more traffic. It's every day. And you're welcome to come to my house anytime and sit on our front porch and watch it. That's all I got to say. No, we don't want it.
Thank you, Ms. Goolsby. Jolene Smithson. See, we have Michael Biscotta.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Biscotto. I live at 2735 Swarm Court in Columbia and Honey Farms. And when you had the map up there, it shows beeswax. Well, beeswax continues right through Swarm Court. My house is basically 6 feet. I am on the front line. I'm the last house that faces the woods there where the cut through would be. The street that they talking about proposed to cut through there. If you park one car there, which I always have my neighbors park his truck and I park on the other side, you can't even get through with two cars parked. It's impossible to drive another car between two cars if you happen to have somebody that wants to park next to their home, which is my situation. So, but I have lots of neighbors that live in Honey Farm that are, I'm sure they're not here. They're all either working, but most of the neighbors that next to me across the street, they all have small children. Plumbers that I know lives across the street. He has 3 kids. They're all always in that cul-de-sac area where I live. And of course, you know, that's the one place where you always feel safe to go out with a bicycle or set up a pool next to your yard. That would be completely destroyed. Completely. The traffic, I would have never bought that house if I had any dream that there would be losing the forest that's behind us, where all the deer, there's an owl that lives right behind me, right up, I can see from my back deck. And every year he comes out, and it's a huge owl, you know, and they live, there's a nest there. That would all be wiped out too. I mean, talk about the environment being just devastated. If you've ever come down Honey Farms, you go down Beeswax to the very end. That's Swarm Court there. That's where the proposed, looks like where it's proposed on the graphic there. And it would, and I have friends that live on Double Branch. I know Double Branch. Just to get on Double Branch, you have to make your way. It's a very narrow, thin road. There's not even a line in it. Same like my street. There's no line in the middle where you could propose to, because if somebody's coming down Beeswax, whether it's a UPS driver or any kind of delivery, you have to pull over to allow that person to pass, because there's typically people live there. They sometimes have visitors. People park on the street. There's only one-sided sidewalk as well. So you'd have to lose your sidewalk. You'd have to lose your yard to expand. It would be a crazy situation with the trucks, but especially what's going on in the front of Honey Farm already. A mini Walmart, like Russ was describing, and my friends Jamie and his neighbors. It's absolutely a tragedy, I think, for the Columbia as far as development. Look somewhere else. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I'll ask, please just be cognitive of any of your concerns have already been addressed. We'd be glad to acknowledge those. But next we have Kim McMillan. Thank you. I believe Greg Gamble's with the applicant. Yeah, so I'll go past there. George Tillis. Thank you, Mr. Tillis. Thank you. Thank you very much. Rich Stevenson.
I'm good.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Jay Youngdale.
Good evening. My name is Joy Youngdale. I live at 2947 Beeswax. A lot of people have already said things, but I just kind of want to reiterate it. Safety, our street, the maps up there don't do justice. They're very narrow, like the other people have said. You cannot get 2 cars down there at once. And if you've never been down Beeswax or in the community of Honey Farms, I suggest that you come. I'm a retired school teacher. I work mostly at Battle Creek Elementary School, which is your newest elementary school in Murray County. That school was built for 700 students. At the end of this school year, 2025, they had over 700 students, approximately 720 to 740 students. I'm not sure where you're going to put all these new families that are going to be moving in. If you go down Honey Farms Way, that's the only exit in and out of that community. If you have a major emergency, whether a fire, could be a flood, whatever, there is no way that all those people can get out of that one street. So my neighbors and myself were opposed of this. We don't want our quiet neighborhood to become noisy with lots of vehicles. I suggest you come to the neighborhood. Better yet, find somewhere else to build. Thank you.
Thank you. We have JT Ward.
My name's JT Ward. I live at 2215 Double Branch Road. I've lived there with my family for about 12 years, but I've lived within 40 minutes of here my whole life. Out of all the really good reasons everyone here has stated not to let this happen, probably one of the better ones is it's just a terrible spot, and it's all huge hills and thick forest. So for them to try to fit this square peg in a round hole to wipe out all those woods, do all the damage to the creeks, the streams, the wildlife, just to put more birdhouse little subdivision that there's not a need for. We have, there's thousands of homes for sale right now. There's plenty of development that's already approved on the books that we know we're going to have issues with the water, supplying it with water. We know that can's getting kicked down the road. I just think, you know, with you being the gatekeepers of where we go, what's Columbia going to look like 30 years from now? Clearing out all these woods and having to do everything to try to fit what they're proposing in that one specific spot is when it's protected right now. Then just leave it protected. That way, you know, 30 years from now, that area is still a thriving, nice wooded area for everyone that you see here that already own homes, people that have lived here for 30, 40 years or longer. It's just not fair to let this happen. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Next was Ryan Carey. Not seeing Mr. Carey. Mark Phelps.
Hi. I just have a couple of items. I've lived on Double Branch since '94, and up and down Double Branch and all the connecting roads, you have ditches right on the side of the road. And I don't know if they ever planned on widening the road, you know, putting lines down the middle, if that's part of this or not. It's going to be real hard to do because those ditches carry runoff down to the creeks and the streams.
So if you widen the road and get rid of the ditches, that runoff's going to end up in people's yards, in their homes and basements if they have them. Also, I don't know if it's true or not, I've heard that they're talking about annexing a lot of the area, not just where the homes are going to be built, but all up and down Double Branch. According to the map I seen, then we're going to become part of the city. If that's true, are our taxes going to go up because we're going to be part of the city instead of being rural or part of the county? That's something to think about. Also, most people up and down the road have, they don't have city plumbing. So are we going to have water if we become part of the city of Columbia? Are we going to have water brought in? Who's going to pay for that? Where's the sewage going to go if, have the sewage situation changes where the city has to take care of the sewage? Are we going to have to pay money for that? Those things will have to be tied into people's homes. So I'm against this, not to mention what's going to go on to the wildlife and everything else around it, which has already been mentioned. And just to make extra money, that's what this is about. Somebody's going to make a whole lot of money off this. And I think everybody here is against it because we've lived there for many, many years, and it's a wonderful area, and I'd like to see it stay the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Thank you. We got, appreciate everybody's concerns I've heard tonight. The next up would be the applicant, Mr. Greg Gamble.
Mr. Gooch.
Yes.
I'll make a quick statement.
Yeah.
I know during the testimony I did hear the comment about mobile home park. In fairness to the applicant, the use that they're proposing would not allow a mobile home park. What Mr. Rush was alluding to is the future land use policy of suburban neighborhood would in the future, if they petitioned for it, could allow that. So just to let the public know, but I would note that the comprehensive plan that we did a couple years ago, maybe 2 years now, did have this area as protect. And so the goal of the consensus was that this be a protected area and remain in a rural characteristic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Greg Gamble, and I'm here tonight with Nick Moran and Patrick Achilles with Dries Homes. They are single-family home builders. We're asking for your consideration tonight for a comprehensive comp plan amendment of Connect Columbia. We believe that the proposed neighborhood would be consistent with suburban neighborhood and the policies of suburban neighborhood. The intent of suburban neighborhood is to enhance existing suburban areas and create neighborhoods that will improve the quality of life in Columbia. This proposed neighborhood of 250 homes.
Please. We won't. Nobody did that for y'all's comments. We're not going to let it be for Mr. Gamble. Let's give him the respect deserved to be up here and speak. Thank you. Please.
This proposed neighborhood of 250 homes on 206 acres has a density of 1.21 homes per acre. This is a significant reduction in the comparison to the 2.8 homes per acre at Honey Farms, which is obviously located just to the north of us. This proposal transitions Honey Farms and Greens Mill to rural character to the south, where Rutherford Creek becomes a natural delineation between suburban neighborhood and rural transition. These communities located along the city limits would greatly benefit from roadway connectivity. Honey Farms consists of 582 homes and only one access point. Now that Walmart and McDonald's are under construction, additional access points for the residents is critical. Connections are proposed to Beeswax Street and Honey Farms, and a bridge connection located here to Greens Mill. The connection to Honey Farms is a local street, and it should be considered traffic calming to make sure that there's limited cut through and that the trips are for those residents who live within the neighborhoods. The roadway from Greens Mill here at the bridge coming through all the way to Double Branch will be a collector road and built to collector road standards. The policy for suburban neighborhood also states that density and intensity should decrease in proximity to areas under rural transition, future land use classification, and not be abrupt. Lot sizes in Honey Farms average 7,800 square feet. The lot sizes in Greens Mill average 11,500 square feet. The proposed CD3L neighborhood would have an average lot size of 14,300 square feet with significant open space areas to the south. Also want to point out that where we do have existing neighbors along Honey Farms, we're leaving significant buffers, leaving treed areas. The area down here along the south have distances between 400 to over 1,000 feet. We're not proposing to manipulate the 100-year floodplain in that area. The 100-year floodplain will remain in open space. The proposal would be consistent. Prior to the 2024 comprehensive plan update, this property was designated as suburban neighborhood. In 2024, the property was assigned to rural transition policy. The Honey Farms PUD was approved in 2006, and in the PUD, the sewer main was planned to be on the west side of Rutherford Creek. So it was planned to be following along the west side here. It was actually constructed along the east side of Rutherford Creek. It was to be located in an area that was easy for Honey Farms to gravity flow its sewer to the sewer main. This has created a new situation where gravity flow for Honey Farms to the sewer main has become difficult to connect. The annexation of the subject property and its development would allow for this southern pump station here at Honey Farms to become gravity through this development all the way to the sewer main at no cost to the city of Columbia. Another element that has changed since 2004 is the installation of the traffic signal at Honey Farms Way and Nashville Highway. We believe that this property should be developed under the purview of the city of Columbia, that this property is within the urban growth boundary and is contiguous to the city limits. The zoning ordinance requires that newly annexed properties be annexed in as CD3L, which is what we're requesting. The CD3L zone district is not listed under rural transition policy. In order to proceed and promote predictable growth patterns, we request your approval for this amendment and annexation. My client wants to work with the city of Columbia, wants to help solve problems that you've heard tonight. There are structural infrastructure issues on Double Branch that someone needs to pay for. There are structural deficiencies and interconnectivity issues with neighborhoods that have one way in, one way out. And we want to be a part of the conversation to help solve problems. Maybe there are some tweaks and changes to our master plan that need to be made as we move forward to the preliminary plat. We know that a traffic study needs to be done, submitted along with the preliminary plat, and we appreciate your consideration of this proposal tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Appreciate everyone's input tonight, and I know we probably all have a little something to say, but I guess I'll start with just acknowledging, and you pointed it out, Mr. Campbell, that maybe this proposal did conform to the old comp plan before it was amended, but I got to give kudos to staff because a significant amount of time was put in place with making this comp plan amendment that we adopted, I don't know what it's been, about 2 years ago now, with a lot of public input, and a lot of concerns were heard then. So by, I guess the designation of calling this now a rural transition area and preserving it and kind of protecting it as far as the area of change is protected, that was not done haphazardly. A lot of information was put in and considered in doing so. There's lots of things that are concerns here, but my first one is that we're asking for an annexation and a comp plan amendment to change it from what a lot of inputs I just said, would be required. So I'm just going to start with a motion to deny this request on the 8.519H4 item A, that this rezoning is not consistent with our comp plan.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Shannon. We'll open it up for discussion.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. I'll go first. If you've been here, you know I like to talk first. So I was out on Double Branch today, and I called Road Superintendent McKee. And bless his heart, he was gracious. He said, I'll help the city however I need the help. but he has not had any input yet. Nobody's contacted him, as I understand, about Double Branch Road. Double Branch Road is a tough road. And one thing I would require, or I would like to see, I don't know if I require, city council require, if this thing was to move forward, whenever it does come back, I think there needs to be a traffic study done before we annex it. I don't like annexing something and then doing the traffic study, and we find out all these changes, and the developer, well, I don't want to do that now. And we're in an argument. That way it's known up front. The second thing is it will cause a lot of traffic out there. But the main thing is, and I've said this before, is the water. They're not guaranteed, and I'm not saying guaranteed. I said that wrong. Maybe have water at the end of 2028. That's over 3 years away, might have the water, and I do not feel comfortable annexing something when it says adequate facilities. We hope to have adequate facilities in 2028. There's nothing you can do to make the water right. You can't put in a line. It's all dependent on the goodness of Columbia Power and Water getting it done. And bless their heart, they stay up every night doing everything they can to solve this water problem. I know, I talk to them all the time. But as of right now, I do not see how we can annex something into the city and we do not have water for it. And then in 3 years, you'll be coming to us saying, where's my water? Even though it says on the letter, no guarantee, you'll be saying, where's my water? I know how developers work. I'm one of them. So that would be my main reason why the adequate facilities right now, we just don't have the water. A traffic study needs to be done before, not after, to see what needs to be done to Double Branch and make sure Superintendent McKee agrees and help us with that, because Double Branch is a hard road.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other discussion on this item? Seeing no other, we have a motion and a second on the table, and so just discussing amongst ourselves here. Any other discussion amongst? Seeing none, we'll call the vote on the item. The motion, I'm sorry, to clarify, the motion was to deny based on 8.519H. I'd have to go back and see what it was, but item A is not conforming to the comp plan. Aye.
Dr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shannon.
Aye.
Mr. Sloan.
Aye.
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Go.
Aye. Request is denied. Thank you. And I will go ahead and allow the
Yes, sir. I just wanted to point out that, so this is just a recommendation. So this item can move forward to City Council with that recommendation. Mr. Gamble, due to public notice changes by the state recently, we will need to advertise this tomorrow. So if you wish to move forward with that, please let us know. If not, we'll start the publication process tomorrow.
With that being said, we'll give a small break or pause to allow anybody that wishes to leave now that this item's been addressed. Please go ahead and as quietly and promptly as possible. Thank you. Orderly, yes.
All right. You can talk, hey, you can talk on 2, 3, 4. Maybe that's
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on our agenda tonight. It's going to be item number 3, request from Michael Sandifer. Michael Sandifer for a preliminary PUD master plan recommendation for the construction of a telecommunications tower on the site of Christ Our Savior Church at 2494 Nashville Highway, being tax map 51, parcel 7.01.
Thank you, Chairman. The applicant requests a PUD revision and has submitted a preliminary PUD master plan for 2494 Nashville Highway, which will allow for 110-foot monopine with the grounding, utilities, fence components, and other supporting structures and components. The Planning Commission approved the rezoning from RS40 to CEG PUD in Ordinance 4042 and then development for the development of a sign in December 2015, making it a PUD. The development is subject to the current Ordinance 4400. The PUD revision complies with all standards that govern SL Tower except for one. A financial security development agreement and stormwater maintenance agreement are not applicable to this request. The DRC reviewed this proposal at its April 2025 meeting. Staff reviewed, including standard comments and requests for technical corrections. Full technical comments are provided in the agenda packet. The applicant complies with requirements set for Article 439E.RR.4L. Evidence that the site complies with requirements of the NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, in regards to impact on wildlife, endangered species, historical sites, Native American religious sites, floodplains, wetlands, high-intensity white lights, and residential neighborhoods, and frequent emissions in excess of the FCC guidelines. The applicant states that the development process includes completing the NEPA review process, which includes consulting the State Historical Preservation Office, the SHPO, the Tribal Historic Preservation Office, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and others to evaluate any impact on the proposed facility at this location. The NEPA process is ongoing. The applicant is happy to make the final NEPA report a condition of approval. Addressing high-intensity white lights as described in J above, the proposed tower has approved by the FAA and does not require any lighting. Since the applicant is unable to comply with this requirement, a positive recommendation with a condition of approval subject to the NEPA report will be required. The applicant has requested that if the motion is made to approve the conditions, the applicant requests a condition to be included to incorporate the engineered 44-foot fall zone radius as depicted in the site design and described in supporting documents into the PUD amendment for this property to satisfy requirements 5 of Article 439E. The applicant's submittal reflects a monopine structure as previously requested by the property owner, but the recent stated that they would be open to a traditional monopole should this be favored by the city. The ordinance has no subject language that deals with the monopines in general. Page 7 of my staff report, item number 5, towers may be built on the same lot or building site with another principal use. A separation, a minimum of the tower height between the tower and the other principal use is required in order to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of individuals and structures occupying the same site. Joint use is prohibited on the lot or building sites where proposed or existing principal use includes the storage, distribution of cells, flammable or hazardous LP gas, propane, or anything that's dangerous in chemicals. So what they were asking for is a deviation from our standard requirements of 100% at least from the structure. They're asking for you to set the 44-foot fall reduction zone that has been engineered to collapse on its own. The Planning Commission is the recommending authority for PUD revision. The City Council is the decision-making authority for PUD revisions. Templates are provided at the end of the report to assist the Planning Commission in crafting a properly formatted motions. That's my report, Chairman.
Thank you very much. May I have any questions from you? I may call you forward in a minute. We do have a Michael Santiago that has signed up. Not sure if he represents the applicant or a concerned citizen. Michael Santiago in the audience.
I'm Michael Sanford.
Okay, sorry.
Might have been I got that in right.
That's okay. Sorry for mispronouncing.
Oh, no, you're fine. Good afternoon or good evening. My name is Michael Sandifer. I represent Vogue Towers, the developer here, as a project manager. Do you want my address?
No, that's you're on behalf of the applicant.
Yes, correct. As Charles pointed out, this is an application for what we call a multi-provider wireless communications facility. So this is Vogue Towers is essentially a shopping center turned upright. They represent multiple wireless providers. So this would be open to the co-applicant here is Verizon Wireless, but it would be open to a T-Mobile or a AT&T, et cetera. So it is designed with the intent of being able to support both on the ground as well as the integrity of the tower structure itself, multiple wireless providers and antennas in the equipment. It is the other image that showed the pine tree. This is a 105-foot monopine with a 5-foot lightning rod, and thus the 110 overall on the height, and that's what the setbacks are taken from. In addition to working as a multi-provider facility, Vogue Towers also opens their locations up, their facilities to EMS and local first responders if there's a need for that as well, as long as the tower can hold it. We worked with staff and revised this. I think we were originally supposed to be on maybe even May, and so we revised a few things on the plan. It meets both of your setback criteria right now. You have one to the property lines, you have one to structures on the property. What we're asking for here is to reduce the one against structures for future growth of the church on the property to what's called an engineered fall zone, which what it happens here is they just over-designed the bottom of the pole. And if you've ever had a kink like in an umbrella shaft or a golf club shaft, that's what the tower would essentially do. It's over-designed. This one in particular, we're talking about at the 60-foot mark, and that's where we get the 44 feet. And what would happen in the instance of a tragic situation is the top part would collapse over on top of itself. The bottom half is just simply over-designed to be stronger and create that weak link. So therefore, that's why we're asking. Since my understanding is part of the PUD amendment, this radius would no longer be able to be developed, kind of crossed out or blacked out. And so we're asking for that reduced to be part of the condition. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I'll start with my questions probably to the staff first, but if I need you, I'll give you a shout. So,
okay.
I guess my first question is pertaining to the NEPA application.
Yes, sir.
I think it says that, any recommendation would be subject to the results of that.
Yes, sir.
It seems like that has concerns, or at least things that needs to be addressed with its close proximity to residential and amongst other things, wet water land, stuff like that. Why would we not want to see the results of that prior to a PUD amendment?
Usually those take quite a bit of process, especially when you're going for a SHPO. I anticipate they've already gotten all their FCC guidelines that can be found in their packet. They have been approved for their tower height with no lighting. The travel or the SHPO, I would probably suggest that probably be a finding of no fact. But approving this, and then if it comes back with finding of fact that yes, there is native consequences, would deem this that it doesn't meet those requirements, so it would be access if you approved it with that condition.
Okay. And just for clarification, the request here today, I guess the specifics of a cell tower being in a PUD conforms to our PUD guidelines. It's just a matter of the fallout zone. Is the request that or just any, I guess the fact that it's amending the PUD altogether is.
Yeah, so it's a PUD revision to a previous PUD preliminary that this will be seen as. But yes, it conforms to all standards and regulations except for the NFPA report. And then also if you accept the 44-foot reduced fall zone, that would be different from what is in our zoning ordinance of at least having to be 100% from structures. And
does that fall under a guidance that similar to alternative compliance type stuff, is that something that planning commission can adjust that I guess that
Yes, sir.
fallout zone of what our ordinance requires?
Yes, it's a PUD, so it can ask for its own deviations. Mr. Brass, our zoning administrator, most definitely can add on to that as well, if I'm incorrect, but yes.
Okay.
The alternative compliance and performance is more for straight zoning projects. Again, with the PUD, the use is allowed within the PUD.
Right.
Certainly, they're just asking for that one deviation that Mr. Rush has alluded to, a reduced fall zone. If this tower was in a straight zoning situation, they unfortunately wouldn't have that privilege to ask for a reduced fall zone because the ordinance is clear. It requires a fall zone equal to the height of the tower.
Thank you. Anybody else on committee have any questions? Dr. Martin? No.
So I want clarity in the understanding about the NEPA. So the request is to do this and then allow the historic preservation, tribal historical preservation, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife to happen in the future. But we're going to have a requirement that we have to get a good report from these three.
Yes, ma'am. It'll all be included in one packet. The SHPO process, I know this because I was a consultant for many years. It does take a little bit of a process from hearing back on that. And the same with that. I mean, if you're not comfortable, you can most definitely, choose not to act on that as a condition. But that is normal. That's something that I've requested from planning commissions as well. It is a lengthy process.
Okay. And I'm trying to get my clarity on this fall zone. So you're saying that because it's in a PUD, it doesn't have to be 100%, and you can modify it to allow the 44 feet.
Yes, ma'am. If you choose to do so, you can, only because it is in a PUD and you can ask for deviations, kind of different from our standards. Like Mr. Brass said, if it was just a straight zone, they would not be able to request anything like that.
Okay, and let me see. My last. The next question I have is about the FAA and the the white lights. Explain that a little bit better.
Yes, ma'am. The applicant has submitted that. They have reviewed it. At its proposed height, there's nothing required for that because planes are not going to be flying, that low to the ground, so it's not needed in that regard. So that is found in your staff report packet, and also you can ask the applicant more about that if you wish.
Okay, and then on page 8, where in number 6, so I'm still talking about this tower height. He's not asking for he's not asking for a variance on that. Towers 80 feet or more in height shall be located on the lot so that the distance from the base of the tower to any adjoining property line or supporting structure of another tower is minimum 100. That's what I just asked, but this is just giving the numbers to it.
No, ma'am. So that's different. That's just from the property lines. That's saying that, you at least have to be the maximum number of the height of the tower from the property line and any other towers for that. So yes, ma'am, that's a little bit different.
And he complies. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Sloan, do you have questions?
Yeah, I think the main question is, what if, right? Like, what if the bottom isn't over-designed enough and the whole thing falls? And what, by a straight zone, what isn't allowed in the fall zone? Because right now there's plenty of parking that would be there. There's a shed that's really close. So who's liable for that? And how is all that taken care of? And if we approve a reduced fall zone and just by chance it goes over,
So parking is not seen as a structure per our zoning ordinance, so that wouldn't classify as that. I think that is not a shed. I believe that is for trash. That's just a container out.
Dumpster enclosure.
A dumpster enclosure. I do not believe that has a roof on it. So that wouldn't be a structure anyway, per our zoning ordinance.
It does have a roof, just so you know. Yeah.
Okay.
It could be it could be for trash. I was just I only said shed because on the site plan it says shed.
Okay.
Looks like shed. I was just curious. It just seems kind of odd. And then in the drawings, there's something that's called a cord tie line that sort of makes a beeline to the southeast of the fenced-in area, and I was curious about what that is. I didn't know if anybody could answer that.
I do not have an answer on that.
It's on sheet 4 of the drawings, revision 2 drawings. I was just curious, like if I read the words cord tie line, it seems like there's a cable of sorts that would be.
Maybe the applicant knows.
Oh, yeah, please come forward and
That's simply where they're tying back to a benchmark. That's a surveyor item. There's nothing physical there.
Cool. That's awesome.
And if I may, on the FAA, we do have a determination of no lighting required. Typically, towers under 200 feet do not require lighting. You get into a situation where they're close to airports or this and that might change that. But the general rule is if they're under 200 feet, you don't no lighting is required.
Under 200, okay.
thank you. I have concerns with granting a variance of the fallout zone just from safety concerns. I understand the breakaway points. I see it on the interstates as I pass by highway roads that have blown over and they have that break zone and stuff, but there's just, I think if we open it up and start making amendments to our ordinance, we're opening up a Pandora's box, for lack of a better word. So that being said, I'm going back to my staff report here. I'm going to make a motion to deny the request on the fact it doesn't conform to our ordinance.
Second.
I have a second by Dr. Martin. Any other discussions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Vice Mayor McBroom, Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Shannon,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Goetz,
Aye. Request is denied. Thank you. Next item on our agenda, request number 4, is going to be the request from Allison Corolla for preliminary plat and site development plan approval for Trotwood Foster subdivision off Trotwood Avenue, being tax map 112, parcel 18.03.
Chairman, I'll be abstaining on this, number 2.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Goetz. This property is currently in the city limits of Columbia. It is zoned CD3, and so the applicant is requesting a site development plan that adheres to all of the standards of the CD3 with a density of 2.34 units per acre. The CD3 does allow up to 4 units per acre. Nevertheless, the key area of concern was Columbia Water did issue a water availability letter for this project. It is valid to February 18th, 2025, so it meets the term period of validity for this approval. However, it was noted from Columbia Power and Water that they can only support 500 gallons per minute for fire flow. However, Fire did add that with this new tanker truck that the city recently purchased, that they can supply another 600 gallons per minute with water. The ordinance requires 1,000 gallons per minute to be supplied, and so with the 500 from CPWS and the additional 600 from the fire tanker truck, they are noting that they can adequately service the proposed residence. It's going to be 119 residential lots here if the homes stay under 3,600 square feet. And so simply put, what that means is with this information, the fire marshal's office is determining that the homes will not be required to be sprinkled. In addition to this, the applicant did provide the amenity spaces with the civic space types that adhere to the code in the form of a green, a playground, and another green. It does meet all of the requirements for radiuses and main civic space types. And then in addition, the applicant did provide detailed information regarding the tree area and the tree canopy preservation area. So the ordinance does require a certain amount of area to be preserved as tree canopy protection area. It is being shown. And then in addition to that, the ordinance requires all specimen trees to be inventoried. So a specimen tree is a tree that is 24 inches or caliber in or more. The applicant does propose to remove some specimen trees, and so they are required to replant those at a 2-to-1 ratio. The staff report does give detail to the analysis regarding the replanting schedule for the specimen trees. Other than that, the site development plan does adhere to the zoning ordinance and meet the CD3 standards. Thank you.
Thank you. I do see, obviously we have Allison Corolla, but there is a John Bradford. I'm not sure if he's just a citizen there that wants to come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm John Breifogel. I live on 1505 Rockland Drive in Columbia. I would like to reiterate some of the concerns that Mr. McBroom has raised: water, schools, infrastructure, and I'm sorry, memory fails. But you've already addressed all of the concerns I have here. We need to be paying attention in particular to water and schools, because your schools, the lady earlier mentioned that the school in Spring Hill is already overflowed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bradley. And just appreciate you pointing that out. And I guess I just need to put some clarification in here on an annexation and things of that nature. Those become a little more critical items because, they're one of the line items for us to review in our consideration. But in this one, it's a straight zoning and it's just a final plat. Then it's, there's entitlement rights, if you will, to some of
That's
the.
right. They're not asking for rezoning. Therefore, that criteria request is not reviewed at this point.
Thank you.
They do have the rights under the CD3. And then one additional key point with this I did not notate in the earlier presentation is Foster Lane has always been a discussion point with this project. As you're aware, Foster Lane is a dirt path, so to speak, and so the applicant is proposing with the site development plan to realign Foster Lane into a city street standard that meets our thoroughfare type. And so on the site development plan, it's going to be the roadway that is adjacent to the city limit line. And so that's something that staff did have a lot of discussion on regarding the condition of Foster Lane. And so the applicant's proposal, again, is just to realign that road section as a new thoroughfare type.
Okay. Thank you. Mrs. Corolla, did you have anything to add? Sorry, there we are.
Good evening. I'm Allison Corolla from T-Square Engineering. One thing I did just want to clarify is we have paid our water service fees, so our water availability has extended through to April 2026.
Thank you. That was going to be my question because I know the one from February 18th was 120 days and we're 141 days past that. So I just want to make sure that there was that was being addressed. Thank you for that.
Yes, those fees were paid.
Okay. And my other question, I guess, maybe of just staff here, and I just want some clarification on this because this is our first time where we're seeing this 500 GPMs from water department that, they don't meet our fire flow requirement standards based upon that. We have this now new letter from the fire marshal saying we have this tanker truck that specifically gives an additional 600 GPMs. It doesn't specifically address anything about, by doing so, that's waiving any requirements for any kind of sprinklings, that would need to be done on this. I guess my question is, as a board of volunteers here, is that request being asked upon us to approve whether or not they have to be sprinkled, or is the fire marshal taking the responsibility of saying this tanker truck has enough flow capacity to meet the requirements to not sprinkle the homes?
In the technical review comment, it did specifically say, if you can just bear with me one moment, I'll pull the comment up and read it here.
Thank you.
For the item. So the note does read, Columbia Fire and Rescue now has a tanker truck in place in a mutual aid agreement with Murray County Fire to bring additional tanker trucks to the scene. Columbia Fire and Rescue will be able to supply an additional 600 gallons per minute. The water letter states CPWS can provide 500 gallons per minute, so there will be 1,100 gallons per minute available. As long as all homes stay under 3,600 square feet, no fire sprinklers will be required.
That's ultimately, thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
That's really what I was looking for, was not that to be upon me to.
And the applicant says, great, thanks.
Thank you. Other than that, it conforms to all of our ordinance. It's just, for lack of a better word, getting vested rights into the development phase at this point. And
Correct.
one other question, sorry, before I make my motion. I know when this first came on a while back for annexation, I believe there was a traffic study maybe that was completed for some improvements that needed to be made at Trotwood. I assume this reshifting of Foster Lane's entrance will still be addressed based upon that traffic study?
Yes, those same turn lane improvements will be required with the new alignment of Foster Lane.
Okay, thank you. That being said, I'll make a motion to approve, subject to technical comments, along with the applicant providing, and I got to go to my staff report to get this right, timely submittal of an as-approved plans with this.
Second.
Have a second by Dr. Martin. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just had, and I can't even find it in the attached documents. There was something in here about, under engineering, about a TVA approval. It was in the notes, and I'm trying to scroll and find that.
Grading within the TVA easement.
Yeah. What, subject to TVA approval? So at what point do we address that? Is that a future concern?
That would be prior to any land disturbance permit being issued.
Say it again, please.
Before they got a land disturbance permit to grade, they would have to
Okay.
provide that.
They must provide that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Any other questions?
Let me just make one point, if I might.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, since we've got one member absent, we've got one member abstaining, so we're down to 5 voting members. Just so that everybody's clear, the bylaws for the Planning Commission state that 4 concurring votes shall be required to approve action on any matter. So although we've just got 5 people here, it still requires 4 votes for affirmative.
Okay, so
it would.
Just to clarify, if we were to land with a 3-2 vote on this, it would die.
Whatever the motion would fail if it was a
Motion would
3-2
fail.
vote.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the way the bylaws are written and have been for.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification. No
Make sure
pressure.
everybody's clear on that.
Yeah, so, any other discussion? Seeing none, we will call the vote on the item.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Shannon?
Aye.
Mr. Sloan?
Aye.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Goode?
Aye. Item passes. Thank you. Next item on our agenda, item 5, request from Colton Doris for preliminary plat and site development plan approvals of Hampshire Pike Steadfast Mixed-Use Development located off Hampshire Pike, being a portion of tax map 89, parcel 41.15.
Chairman, I'll have to defer on this one also.
Thank you, Vice Mayor McBride.
Abstain.
Abstain, I'm sorry, abstain.
Yeah. I knew what you meant. Thanks for clarification.
I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that.
Thank you, Attorney.
He's new at this.
Humble.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this site plan is somewhat unique because what it does is it has sections of it that are vested under a previous zoning ordinance, and then the proposed site plan before you today are under, of course, our current ordinance. Nevertheless, back in 2022, a preliminary plat was approved for this that included 11 single-family lots with a multifamily site plan. The 11 single-family lots and the multifamily site plan were approved under the previous ordinance, in addition to 3 commercial lots that are in fronting Hampshire Pike. At that time of that approval, the site development plan showed additional residual lots as vacant area. There was no indication at the time of single-family, multifamily, or townhomes on the lot. It was just vacant. The property at the time was zoned MRC, and with the new zoning ordinance in 2022, all MRC became CD4 by default zoning. This request before you today introduces 143 townhomes to the site on the sections of the property that were currently listed on the plat as vacant. In addition to that, there is an existing spine road that has currently been built. I don't know if any of you all had a chance to take a look at it, but it's currently fully constructed. That goes from Williamsport to Hampshire Pike, and it also is on a subsequent final plat just after this case here. Nevertheless, the site development plan does adhere to the standards of the zoning ordinance when introducing the townhomes regarding enfrontment and street thoroughfare type. Likewise, it does meet all of the civic space requirements, including the 85-15% mix. So what that simply means is whenever you introduce townhomes into a CD4, you have to preserve commercial frontages within the property. And so the red areas that you can see that are highlighted on the development plan, those are the commercial proposals, and then the yellow is the proposed townhouses. With this, it was tweaked a little bit regarding the secondary loop road off of the spine road. The previous preliminary plat indicated that road as just having a simple cul-de-sac at the end of it. However, by introducing the townhouses, that in turn required that road to be upgraded to a new thoroughfare standard, requiring the street parking, the grass strip, and the sidewalk. And in addition, the new townhouse section there at the south corner of the property also introduces the new thoroughfare type. This does have a active water availability letter that was issued for it, and staff does recommend approval as it does meet the standards of the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Brass. Let's see, we have the applicant, Josh Rowland, in the audience. Anything you'd like to add at this moment, Mr. Rowland?
Good evening, Josh Rowland with Kimley Horn. We're just here tonight requesting your approval and want to thank the staff for working closely with us to dot our I's and crossing our T's to make sure we're 100% in conformance with the ordinance. And we're looking forward to the next phase in the Hampshire Pike mixed-use project. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. I'll ask a couple questions of staff, maybe just for clarifications, just because I've had some, conversations with concerned citizens in the adjoining neighborhood. Just on the connection to Cherry Springs, where the Woodland Crossing is connected there. Am I seeing that correct? That that's going to start a sidewalk connection down through there, at least on this portion? It will be sidewalked down to what would become, or what has been, the cul-de-sac now of the old neighborhood?
That's right. The ordinance requires a sidewalk on both sides of the roadway.
All right. Thank you for that.
And likewise, the connection was always shown, even in the previous preliminary plat with
Sure.
Cherry Springs.
And with the introduction of these townhomes, I know we had previously, I feel confident we did, I mean, it's been a while since we've seen this, but when these apartments of phase of the first section came up, there were some traffic studies done at that point. I know this was just vacant land, so we really didn't know what it would be, but does this 143 additional townhomes now warrant any kind of revision to the traffic study?
We had the applicant update their commitment letter to include these units. The original traffic study overestimated the number of units, so the improvements stayed the same. We just had them update when those improvements were triggered based on these new townhomes being proposed.
And just at what point, I do know that there's going to be a red light that'll go in there where it connects to Hampshire Pike. At what stage or phase will that be go in?
So we looked at it a few different ways, and I believe with the original, it was maybe 6 apartments. I'd have to look back, but we reconfigured that to tie into the amount of traffic that's going to be generated. So at any point where they generate 2,810 daily trips, 163 AM peak trips, or 181 PM peak trips, and this is all based on criteria from our IT trip generation journal, that signal and turn lane improvements on Hampshire Pike would be required.
So they'll have to put up something to monitor that and see at what point they're reaching those.
Yes, they will monitor it, and it will be calculated into their letter of credit for the plats to ensure its installation.
And a concern I heard today, and this may be a good question for you, Mr. Harper, just as you're answering questions, I'll direct it to you, I guess. And I'm going to think about this specifically to like the high traffic time of school zones, like when 2:30, everybody's waiting to, traffic's backed up, and there's pass-through traffic wanting to go just past Whitthorne and stuff like that. Is there a way to kind of not restrict pass-through traffic, but I mean, now that this is going to connect to Cherry Springs, which will connect to Ladue Manor, which will connect to the new section that, that has gone in, and that may be design of what the whole connectivity wants is to get traffic off, but I'm just thinking of people that want to divert away from sitting in, they're not going to the school to pick up a kid, they're just trying to get home, Is that going to increase pass-through traffic? Is there a risk of that? And I guess there always is a risk of that.
There's always a risk of cut-through traffic. I mean, I would see more traffic from the existing developments coming out this development to avoid the school that their access aligns with, or Lion Parkway there. But yes, it's always a possibility for traffic to cut through. It's not a very direct cut through, and I don't know that it would save much time.
Sure.
Also, Chairman, if I can just interject one additional thing I noticed is the packet that you have received, it does include elevations. So just note that we're not reviewing the elevations as this is not a PUD. The applicant just volunteered to introduce that. That will be reviewed at the permit stage to ensure compliance. And there is a note in the staff report under the architecture section about that.
You read my mind.
Yeah. My concern is I don't want there be an issue in the future. I've seen it before sometimes where the elevations are kind of thrown in there and then that establishes the so and speak approval because it was shown, but it wasn't analyzed. And so that's how staff with any straight zone addresses these, is they're just reviewed at building permit for compliance to the CD4 standards.
I know it's about maybe half a mile past this, but not long ago on that continuation of Ladue Manor, they came in for some townhomes on Hampshire Pike, and the city recommended that we recommended that they start a sidewalk on Hampshire Pike. I know because obviously,
yeah, I recall.
You got to start it to kind of promote
That's
it
right.
going forward. So on the commercial parcels that we're looking at here presented, will there be any starting of sidewalk requirements down Hampshire Pike? I know nobody also likes to see a sidewalk to nowhere per se, but it at least starts a walkability down the street. Maybe if the residential houses that pass there, get redeveloped over time, then it would, the sidewalk walkability may have started. So is there any requirements that sidewalk be started on?
So what I'm hearing, Mr. Goetz, is the commercial that's in front of the proposed lots. If we can pull the screen up, it's going to be the red highlighted lots having a sidewalk run down that section of Hampshire Pike. Is that something the applicant maybe can speak to?
At this time, this SDP is for the townhomes, and those road improvements will be back before you for site plan submittals for those commercial properties. And this is the first time that's been brought up. We'll certainly consider it in the future and take the commission's advice and staff's advice on that. But I just wanted to kind of separate those issues from tonight and future commercial site plans.
So the ordinance does under CD4 standards, because you are using the commercial properties to meet your frontage mix from residential to commercial. So you're introducing that. The ordinance does have a requirement in there that pedestrian connections are made. And so keep in mind that the frontages of the new commercial would have a sidewalk, because the door is required at the front. So there would have to be connectivity among the building frontages. But putting the sidewalk in the public right-of-way, that may be something that we can look further at the site plan stage for that. I know with the other project that you were alluding to, next to Ladue Manor, we had them put the sidewalk out in front of their parcel there, but we didn't have them extended out any further out of their parcel. So it's kind of one of those things where we'd have to look at the site development plan, but there would be a sidewalk in front of the buildings.
Okay.
Maybe not in the right of way though.
Yeah, I think your sidewalk's already set up to the spine road, so they would continue that off of that as an asset element into the commercial side. So,
That's right.
Yeah, I know that I've heard a lot from existing residents in that area that have children in the schools that are literally across the street, that there's just no walkability there. So if there's any way to start some walkability, some sidewalks or something like that, it would at least get that ball rolling. And that's why he's going to ask that question about,
And if I understand Mr. Brass correctly, it's not something we would be able to consider. It'd be required in the future. And
in the ordinance, it does say pedestrian connections are required. It has an R in it from
so, yes, we would
commercial sites.
Whether we determine it's better to provide it on those property frontages or in the right of way, we'll certainly do what is required.
Okay.
That answers that question. Anybody else have any questions of the applicant or staff on this? And just for clarification, again, I'll ask, this is an introduction to a lot of townhomes. Are we meeting the required parking requirements?
We went into great detail with that with the applicant regarding parking. I know Mr. Keltner has an additional discussion, I believe, about parking standards in the agenda at the end.
Yes, at the end.
Yeah, and so the ordinance, unfortunately, it doesn't make logical sense. It says that it's 1 parking space, 1.5 parking spaces per townhome unit. However, there's a section in there, whenever there's a fraction, we're required to round down to 1 space. So essentially 1 space per unit. We know that's not adequate for that. The applicant does provide more than enough parking. Staff feels satisfied with it. We're not in this particular review counting the street parking spots. So they also, every townhouse unit, every new street there does have street parking. And then every townhouse unit does have a garage parking stall that can adequately park 2 cars within the stall, but they're just counting that as 1 for all intents and purposes of the parking ratio.
So on that note, because we're not reviewing the elevations, are we guaranteed that the townhome units will have a garage?
Yes, because the one of the criteria points is we do require the footprints of the townhomes, and in order to count the garage parking, you have to show in the footprint that you're meeting that requirement. But we're not reviewing the design, exterior, cladding, things of that nature. But they did provide in the packet the footprints.
And I don't know if I got any more questions. Is there adequate playground areas, civic space, things of that nature with this size of this development?
Yes, it met that requirement for civic spaces.
I don't have any other questions. Let me look at my staff. And is this another one where it would need the timely submittal of the as-approved plans as well?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the proposal here by meeting all the development standards, subject to all technical comments, along with the timely submittal of the as-approved plans.
I would second, and Chairman can ask that we amend that to double down on the elevations not being a part of this approval packet.
Yes, duly noting that the elevations we're viewing here are not part of the packet, and not a requirement of, with the exception of garages.
Just the footprints, though.
The footprints,
not
that's right.
elevations.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a second, amended second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Shannon,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Dubs,
Aye. Item passes. Thank you. Item 6 on our agenda is request from Abigail Overstreet for final plat approval with surety in the amount of $535,000 for Hampshire Pike Steadfast Mixed-Use Subdivision Phase 1 located at tax map 89 parcel 41.15 off Hampshire Pike.
Chairman, I'll have to abstain on that one too.
Have an abstaining on this item.
Thank you, Chairman. The applicant is seeking approval for the final plat to establish the 8 lots that's shown on the final plat along with the spine road. These lots are part of a larger multi-phase mixed-use development, as was just discussed. Planning Commission granted approval for the preliminary plat related to the development in October 2021. The prior approval, of course, created a vested right to develop according to MRC standards, mixed use. The final plat does conform to the preliminary plat. They provided the surety of $535,000 as required. They've executed development agreement. And outside of that, there's no additional staff comments. It does fully conform to the preliminary plat.
So just to make sure I'm understanding what we're saying is we're basically taking the overall plat that we just looked at and we're subdividing into these 8 lots, if you will, the commercial lots, and that's the plat we're reviewing here is the plat of that.
The site development is a direct result of
this. Okay.
Of the lots that's shown in this final plat.
Got your apartments, your commercial, residential over here, residential here.
Right. This is just the final plat for the spine road and then the bigger lots. But yes, those that you just saw. At a preliminary level. This one's just the final.
Gotcha. I'll make a motion to approve, subject to all technical comments.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Shannon.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Shannon,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Goat,
Aye. Item passes. Next item on our agenda, item number 7 tonight is going to be a request from West Engineers and Surveyors for a preliminary plat and site development plan approval of Legends at Hunters Glen, being tax map 112, parcel 18.02, located off Hunters Glen Drive.
Chairman, I have to abstain on this one too.
Mr. McBroom is abstaining on this
Sorry,
item.
I'll talk more next time.
Thank you, Mr. Goetz. This preliminary plat and site development plan is an extension of the existing Hunters Glen subdivision. It currently is a vacant 54-acre parcel, currently zoned CD3, and the applicant is proposing to develop this property under the CD3 standards in which it is zoned at 2.7 density units per acre, with the CD3 allowing up to 4 units per acre. In similar precedent to the previous report, the Columbia Power and Water noted that they can only supply 500 gallons per minute. The city requires 1,000 gallons per minute. However, with the additional tanker truck, they can provide an additional 600 gallons per minute in meeting that requirement, thus not having the requirement to sprinkle the single-family homes. The property currently meets all of the standards for lot orientation and layout, as all lots in front a street section. In addition to that, the proposed development plan does meet all the civic space requirements, utilizing civic space greens, playgrounds, and pocket parks scattered throughout the development site. In addition to that, it does meet the tree canopy retention policy and also the specimen tree inventory. There were some specimen trees that were being proposed to be removed, and with the calculation, there's 660 caliper inches are required to be replaced. So simply put, they do have to replace those trees throughout the site for the trees that are being proposed to be removed. I would note that that's something that staff will review at the site construction plan stage, the areas of where the tree replacement would be required. Nevertheless, this site development plan does meet the standards of the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Brass. We do have some people that have signed up. I believe Mr. Bradford is the citizen on this one. I'll jump down. Mr. Bradford, I know you came forward and expressed your concerns earlier. You've come forth.
Reiterate those concerns. In particular, Mr. McBroom mentioned water a while ago, and just discussed 500 gallons per minute from CPWS and 600 gallons per minute from the tanker truck. That's a 15 to 20,000 gallon spike that does not cover the long-term use of water. Dam is 10 years out. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bradford. And I know we've got Gerald Vick from the applicant and Linda Walker as well. I guess, Ms. Walker, did you have anything you'd like to come forward at the moment, or just if we need you?
Just a few minutes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vick, anything, just here if we...
I'm just here to answer any questions you may have about the proposed development. Gerald Vitt with WS Engineers and Surveyors.
At the moment, I don't think I do, Mr. Vick, but if I do, I'll call you forward and ask. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I think, and Mr. Bradford's concern there, I'd like to maybe ask Mr. Matt Wheeler, who's in the audience, to come forward and answer a question for me, if you could, Mr. Wheeler. Just provide a little clarification on some things.
Happy to do so. Matt Wheeler, VP of Water, CPWS.
Thank you for being here. Just to address maybe the things that we just heard from Mr. Bradford, I know, I understand that the water availability letter addresses at this moment only about 80 lots that can be addressed. I think the applicant is aware that that's all that, as of now, until the long-term water plant becomes available, or becomes complete, and to expand upon that, or whenever the connection to Trotwood is provided. Is that an accurate statement?
Not quite.
Okay.
We have water availability, source water availability to serve this whole project. The 80 unit limit is to serve units built off the end of existing mains through the Hunters Glen subdivision. And so once that 80 unit limit is reached, we need an additional water main from Trotwood brought up to the backside to create another connection to this development to serve the balance of those units. But they have an active water letter today that has source water capacity to serve the whole project.
Okay. And just for clarification on the gallons per minute requirement of the fire flow, that that we've got the fire marshal saying his tanker truck letter addresses the concerns there. But just for, I know that the city council has recently passed some infrastructure improvements that are in place. Just give us a little recap of maybe a timeline or expectations of when those infrastructure improvements will be made, and because that will then, my understanding, address the GPM's concerns that may be in that area, but there's some time period before those can be done.
Certainly. So we can speak to the public water system's ability to meet a fire flow demand. And in this case, today, the existing system can meet about little over 500 GPM at that location. However, we do have capital projects on the books that are now fall within the funding that was approved. So we have capital projects that are expected to be completed within the next 3 to 5 years that will address the south side area. It's going to be creating a south side area pressure zone, large diameter mains, pump station, tank to that area, which will address the fire capacity in that south side area, at which time we would expect to see 1,000 GPM of fire flow available to this project and one prior to this, the Trotwood Foster that was discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler, for being here. Appreciate you answering my questions.
Thank you.
So just to reiterate that, and maybe just to address Mr. Bradford's concern on that, is that there are 2 projects in place under, one is a long-term water treatment plant expansion that's that's underway or being, in the design processes now, that will be able to, get more water. And then the other one is the infrastructure improvements that will improve the flow as well. So I just wanted to make sure we pointed that out. So, other than those concerns, I guess, Mr. Brass, the proposal here conforms to the ordinance, and it's got similar to the one before. It's entitled. It's already zoned. It's already in the.
That is correct. And one additional point I would like to make, because it does correlate with a subsequent proposal on our docket, is the future land use policy for this property is rural transitions. However, it's already vested as a CD3 property, therefore it has a legal right to develop under that. So really that has no bearing on approval tonight because it has its CD3 zoning. And that's pretty common. You'll see in future land use maps typically delineate itself by roads and streams and things like that. And you'll find parcels that are zoned a certain way but may not reflect the current future land use map.
So, for lack of a better word, if the applicant was not wanting to do what the current zoning allowed and wanted to request a rezone from what the current zoning is,
You got it.
You'd have to more conform
You got
to
it.
whatever.
That's right.
I got you.
Yep.
Makes sense. I'll make a motion to approve, subject to all technical comments. Does this one have the requirement of the timely submittal of as-approved plans as well?
Yes, sir, it would.
Okay, so I'll make that motion to approve, subject to all technical comments, along with the timely submittal of as-approved plans.
I'll wait for the second, but I got a question.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Shannon. Now we'll open it up for discussion.
Okay. So on the fire sprinkler question, on the Foster submittal, there was a requirement for 3,600 square feet. So basically it's saying that any home over 3,600 would be required to be sprinkled. Is that correct? So this one, it looks like there's a different form that was submitted by West Engineering that has a 3,000 square foot per home. Is that a delineated requirement for this one?
Go back to
No. Is there a square footage requirement on this?
The square footage requirement comes directly from the International Fire Code.
Mhm.
Is where that's coming from. I did not catch that it said 3,000 though. Which you said that was in?
It was in that Fire Flow 42125. It looks like it was filled out by the fire department. I was just trying to get a little bit more clarity on if there was any sort of threshold outside of norm.
Mr. Vick, yes.
It says plus or minus 3,000.
I believe that was filled out by me. It was filled out back when we originally talked about the home size that they were going to be building. We provide that information to the fire department. It doesn't necessarily limit the fire protection to that. The fire protection would still be limited by the fire code, which would be 3,200 square feet.
3,600.
3,600 square feet. Sorry.
Cool. That's all I needed to hear.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan. So just for clarifications on that, make sure the applicant notes that the limitation of the sprinkle requirements would be less than that 3,600 square feet requirement. So we have a motion and a second on the table. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Shannon,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Goode.
Aye. Item passes. Brings us to our next item on our agenda is request number 8. The request from TKC Architect and Engineering to rezone property at 1221 East End Street, being tax map 99, parcel 59.03, from CDL Residential Large Lot Character District to a CD3 Neighborhood Character District.
Thank you, Mr. Goetz. This is a property that the commission did review back in 2022. At the time, we were under the previous ordinance, and the property was zoned R20, which became default CD3L today. The applicant back in 2022 requested the property to be rezoned to R6, and they did show a concept plan indicating 47 single-family lots. That request was denied by council, so it did retain its CD2 status. Its R20 status that became CD3L. And so the applicant is before you today requesting rezoning from the CD3L to CD3, showing a non-binding concept plan with 28 single-family homes, which does fall into the density category with 2.8 units per acre, with the zoning ordinance allowing 4 units per acre. I would like to note that looking at the adjacent character of the area, there's an existing street, Hardwick, that has homes that are a little bit smaller lots. They're 50-foot lots, and so The zoning ordinance in this case would require 65-foot minimum lots with 40-foot minimum lots for the rear-loaded product type. This does meet the standards of the comprehensive plan, being city center and urban village, and staff would recommend approval as it does meet our framework policy of Connect Columbia.
We have the applicant on, Mr. Cole Newton, that signed up. Mr. Newton, did you have anything to add or just here for any?
Just here for any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Newton. Any questions or anything on from staff on this? I mean, you know, CD3 seems to, just for discussion purposes, I mean, this is 10 acres. So even max at 4 units per acre, assuming no roads or anything were put in, we could only be maximum getting 40 houses in this piece. And
That's right, and keep in mind, with the new ordinance having descriptive civic spaces and open areas, that wouldn't be achievable.
Sure, yeah. And
so really, I think this proposal, I mean, if you think about it, I know this is the kind of development I think we'd want to see more infill type development that really extends existing neighborhoods. So keep in mind, with the amenities that this neighborhood is providing, that helps fill a void. And, for people that live in Hardwick now, they have a playground that the developer's building. And I think this is what a lot of what Connect Columbia wants to try to achieve.
And on that note, this rezone request conforms to our Connect Columbia and our.
That's right.
Yeah, so, all right.
Just gonna talk about item one thing.
Yeah, please go ahead, Mr. Newton.
Cole Newton, TKC Architecture and Engineering, and we do have an approved water letter, so we have water availability for this project. I know it's all.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, I mean it's infill. I mean it feels good to us, but happy to answer your questions.
You wouldn't be here if you didn't have an approved water letter.
That's right.
I almost said, "Be careful." I was about to make a motion, so be careful what you say. Yeah. Now I make a motion to approve, subject to all technical comments.
Mr. Chair, I want a second, but I do have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want this commission to know that when you put those signs out, that the people in Hardwick did call, and they wanted to know what was going on. So your citizens are looking at and definitely questioning what's being done around them. So I did appreciate that.
Thank you, Dr. Martin, for that acknowledgement.
This project right here it's refreshing. We don't have any water problems. We don't have any sewer problems, no power problems, and it's going to benefit an area that needs it. This will help jumpstart this area and get this area back going. So I'll be for it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other questions? We have a motion to approve with a second. Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Vice Mayor McBroom.
Aye.
Dr. Morton. Mr. Shannon.
Aye.
Mr. Sloan.
Aye.
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Dillon.
Aye. That item passes. That brings us to our next item on our agenda tonight. Item 9 is a request from Adam Crunk, PE, for annexation with plan of services approval with a requested zoning designation of CD3 Neighborhood Character District, being tax map 112 parcel 17.00, including a comprehensive land use designation amendment from rural transition to suburban neighborhoods for property at tax map 112 parcel 17.00 and tax map 112 parcel 18.02 located off Foster Lane.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll have to abstain.
Thank you, Mr. Gates. Mr. Humphrey on planning staff, he did a detailed analysis of the proposed annexation. I would just like to note this is kind of a unique request because it does include the parcel to the north, which we just discussed, which is the Hunters Glen extension property. And this parcel is directly to the south. And so this parcel is in similar format, future land use wise, to the parcel to the north that we just approved, being rural transitions. And so the applicant here is asking for a CD3 zoning designation, but in order to do that, you have to request a suburban neighborhood, a future land use. And so the applicant did request the Hunters Glen property to the north to also be suburban neighborhood, with the justification that I imagine it would be more of a housekeeping item. We kind of help maybe correct a comprehensive plan. Again, in my time doing planning work, this is the first I've ever seen something quite like this. I imagine we could infer that the applicant is maybe working towards making a justification of why this property needs to be CD3, because the property to the north is CD3, and it just creates an extension of that. So keep in mind, I'd recommend whatever motion that the commission makes, that it it either be approval, denial, or subject to conditions, but don't let the other property kind of get in the way of this request.
Thank you, Mr. Brass, for that clarification. Mr. Humphrey?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This application seeks for the annexation of an 86-acre parcel located off of Foster Lane, which is an unimproved private road that's little more than a dirt path at this point, along with a comprehensive plan amendment for the rural transition to suburban neighborhood and a request for CD3 zoning. Our review indicates several significant inconsistencies with the Connect Columbia Comprehensive Plan and the zoning ordinance. Firstly, the subject property is designated rural transition, intended to be low-density housing to preserve open space and maintain a semi-rural character. The proposed CD3 zoning, which allows for the higher density housing, directly conflicts with the foundational intent of the rural transition. Additionally, the comprehensive plan designates this area as a protect under the area of change policy. This means the area is not expected to experience significant changes in character, and major or intense development should provide clear public benefit and emphasize compatibility with existing land use. The proposed CD3 zoning and associated development intensity are not consistent with that protect designation. Secondly, and most critically, this request is premature due to the lack of essential urban services, such as public sewer infrastructure. Our comprehensive plan explicitly states that annexations and rezonings are inappropriate without concurrent extensions of these urban services. Although some water capacity is available, significant infrastructure improvements are still required for both water and wastewater, with the completion of the water system not anticipated until late 2028. Proceeding without these services contravenes established policy and creates an undesirable leapfrog development pattern. Furthermore, CD3 is not an implementing district of rural transition areas under the current comprehensive plan, further highlighting these inconsistencies. So in summary, staff finds the proposed comprehensive plan amendment and associated annexation as inconsistent with the vision and policies of Connect Columbia and for the rural transition area, and does not conform to the guiding principles of our zoning ordinance. Therefore, based on the applicant's information and the staff analysis that was provided to you, we recommend that the criteria listed in section 8519H4 of the zoning ordinance has not been satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. We have, I believe, another citizen, Ken Schrimmel. Oh, well, I'm sorry, Mr. John Bradford. Same. Ditto. Got it. Ken Schrimmel.
Well, I'll come for you. First time I've come here, so I'm not sure about the protocol that goes on. And I want to thank all you guys for serving. But I have a concern, and I guess I should express it to you all. I don't know how many of you live south of Columbia. And if we're going to be building all these houses down there, I just have a concern about Trotwood, the amount of traffic that's going to end up on that road. Right now, if you get out, try to get out sometimes in the morning, work days, Monday through Friday, you can barely get out from the shopping center all the way to the hospital sometimes. So if we're going to add all these houses, how are we going to absorb all that traffic? And that's my concern.
Thank you. And just for the record, Mr. Schrimmel, you didn't state your address. So
Oh, I'm sorry, 1513 Heritage Drive.
thank you very much. Thank you for being here to express your concerns. Mr. Crunk?
Good evening, everyone. Adam Cronk with Cronk Engineering. I guess there have been several points that I wanted to make that have come up in the discussion of the properties to the north of this one. I just want to start off by saying that There's been a lot of work over the last 3 years since we first brought this annexation and rezoning forward to the Planning Commission. Each of the 3 property owners, the one adjacent to Trotwood, the one immediately to the north of our site, and the mayors who own the tract that we're discussing right now, have come together to provide adequate access through the extension of Foster Lane. They've come together to help fund a new pump station that can serve all 3 of these developments, and also work together on any needed water solutions to serve the property. I will say that it may be a little unusual, but this is an annexation and rezoning that actually has an approved water availability that's not conditional on future developments, because we've been tracking this project for quite some time. As it relates to the land use amendment, yes, we did notice that the property to the north was previously zoned CD3, or is zoned CD3, but fell in the rural transition. So we, again, worked with that property owner to the north to get them to agree to a land use amendment as well, to make their land consistent with the zoning that they have. I think if you zoom out and look at the future land use plan, you'd notice that the depth of suburban neighborhood off of Trotwood would be no deeper than it is on the other side of Trotwood. This request for land use amendment does not grossly add land to the south, to the west, on the outer boundary. I believe that it's consistent with the land to the east. I believe it's consistent with the land to the north of Trotwood. And so extending suburban neighborhood for what has essentially been a development project that's been working toward the orderly development of all 3 of these developments is not a stretch by any means. In fact, I think supporting a land use amendment and this rezoning request will make the development pattern in this area consistent all the way from Trotwood to this point. As it relates to access, and again, pointing to the cooperation that we've had with the surrounding landowners, just today we were able to get access agreements for roadway connections in the event that the properties to the north do not develop in a timely manner. So there's an access easement for Sugar Tree Lane, which essentially connects to the east side of this property. And then we also have an easement for the extension of Foster Lane that would provide for sewer access and roadway access on the west side of this property. While the staff made the comment that annexation of this lot might be premature, I would say that at the time that staff report was written, that makes a lot of sense. But since that time in this meeting, we've had 2 developments approved directly to the north that would provide adequate roadway access, that would provide adequate sewer, and would provide the necessary extension of water to serve this development as well. Concludes my points on this, and I'd be happy to address any concerns you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cronk. Just to clarify, I guess, and this may be staff, this may be used to Mr. Cronk, but the water availability letter here, it gets a little bit unique in the fact that it addresses maybe 80 lots total. That's kind of like, hey, whoever comes first gets the 80 lots. And, so it's a little bit presumptive in saying that there's adequate water when right now with already annexed and entitled properties, it's who comes first on that scenario. Is that an accurate statement on that it's,
Well, just like Mr. Wheeler stated before, the 80 lots only has to do with a second connection having to be made to Trotwood for water. So the first 80 lots, and it's whether or not it's Hunter's Glen or it's whether or not it's this subdivision, could be served just through extensions to Hunter's Glen. But beyond the first 80 lots, whether it's the one to the north of us, whether it's this one, there would be required a new main to Trotwood. Okay. And then again, the same water scenario occurs here where there are also projects on the books, I understand, that could increase the water flow in this area long term.
Thank you. And that might lead to the remaining, the water availability letter, and I know I probably need to open them both and compare them side by side. But then it says the additional units, 81 through the build out, will require the additional water main. And so that is duplicated, that's the same, it's not like all inclusive, there's only an additional 70 or 80 more lots. It's once the Trotwood connection's made, it can support the full amount of this proposal along with the full amount of the previous proposals.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you. This gets me a little bit, I'm just going to be honest, it's a little difficult because tonight we saw an item that was requesting an annexation. It was requesting an amendment to the COP plan because it was also zoned in an area to protect, which as this one is as well. So we've considered one, now we're looking at another, although I can see the argument that what is surrounding this will be developed into the CD3 district, potentially, I guess one could also argue that the previous one was also surrounded with the honey farm and stuff as a CD3. So
I think the critical analysis here is, I know as it was alluded to in the previous case, is well, where does the city feel comfortable to where you kind of stop the continued suburban neighborhood future land use policy? I know, we have a policy here, it's protect, and it's also rural transitions. And so I think that's kind of the big question here. Where do you delineate that point from moving forward? I know the applicant did note that he provided easements for that. That's something staff did not have privy to review to understand. It sounds like that was maybe done today. Because as currently with the request being made, there was no legitimate access. Yeah, you could argue Foster Lane, but that's
all
an
that is
unimproved
still
right of
hinged
way.
upon 1 and 2 happening.
Exactly. Yeah. And so let's say, in the way I imagine I'd understand it, if the Hunters Glen development to the north would be delayed in their development process, the applicant would have an easement through the Hunters Glen property to the south, and they would have to develop the road to full city standards through Hunters Glen to get to their property. But that's the scenario that I imagine is being at play right now.
So I don't think that staff's comment of premature is out of line. I mean, a lot of things have to happen even for a consideration, in my opinion. So with that being said, I'm going to make a motion to deny this annexation and rezone request on the grounds it's 8.519H4. It's not consistent with our comprehensive plan.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Shannon. Yep. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Vice Mayor McBroom,
Abstain.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Shannon,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Go.
Aye. Request has been denied. Similar to the previous one, it
That's
should be
right.
noted that this is a recommendation only. The applicant does deserve the right to take it on to city council. I think I'll say what you said earlier, maybe, that you need to know pretty quickly but because of publication notices and stuff like that. So.
Well, it'll just, by default, we'll go ahead and push it forward. What happens is the publication fees will then take effect at that time. So if we don't know, then we're just going to go ahead and assume that it needs to move forward. But if you know by the end, let us know, and we can avoid the fee part and the notifications being sent out.
Thank you. Brings us to other business. We have one item on our other business item, residential parking staff.
Yes. So this actually came up with conversations with the chairman and one of your items on tonight with regards to parking in particular with attached housing and maybe even going into multifamily. But it kind of highlighted the point of rounding down versus rounding up. Your previous ordinance, 3638, had the same language, but it had that it would round up. So where the parking garage or the only required parking for a townhome under the current ordinance would be for one space. It does allow you to count the space in front of that townhome for on-street parking, so which are new ordinance as long as your thoroughfares adhere to. That does give you the 2 spaces. But it did start to highlight, is that enough parking for this? And I know this commission in past has struggled with townhome parking. I would stretch that to say even single-family home parking, from what we've seen, can be an issue. Like you heard tonight with Honey Farm. Honey Farm, it's a road wide enough for 2 cars to go down, but when you start adding up parking all that in the street on both sides, it does start to become pretty tight. So instead of just introducing some potential amendments to review that, we just thought it'd be a good idea to put it out there. If you're interested in that, staff can look at those parking requirements, bring you back an amendment, and also if you have any additional items with parking that you want us to look at while we're looking in that section.
I've got a question, because to me, it's not a. I think the metric, the 1.5, might make sense for the townhome type property. I think it's a matter of when you do the rounding. So like you wouldn't round down if you have 1 unit. That's not, or if you have 2 units, that wouldn't be 2 parking spaces. It would be 3. But then when you get to the 3rd unit, instead of 4.5 and rounding down to 4, you'd round up, which would be 5. I think that could be adequate. But I think it's a matter of establishing when you're doing the rounding. And I don't have a grievance on rounding up or down with a half unit, but I think that to me, that's what the intent of the code is. It's like not every townhome user is going to have 2 cars.
That's right.
Because a lot of them are single. But also not everybody uses their garage, and they'll just park out and use your garage for fitness or, hobbies. So you can't predict everything, but I think that's what, to me, that's the logic there, but I don't know how you codify that.
Yeah, normally when you see a half a unit, it's with regards to multifamily or a townhome. Doesn't have to be all fee simple lots, right? It could just be one ownership, one lot with 6 units sitting on it. So you have a shared parking situation with some of that. So the half units work pretty well with that. But in cases that you're seeing where most of them are actually individual owned parcels of land where they're not sharing parking, it becomes a bit more difficult for that. But we just want to throw it out there. So for your next meeting, we'll have a few suggestions for you. If you think of anything in the meantime that you'd like for us to look at with regard to parking, as far as either the counts or just some of the language, just let us know and we'll take a look at that as well.
Appreciate it. Require the users to have smart cars.
I don't know we want to go that far.
Okay.
And in doing so, Mr. Kellner, if you would, because you just mentioned it also maybe with even Honey Farm and the street widths, not really being an advocate for on-street parking, or not necessarily, I guess where I'm going with that is maybe simultaneous with that. I know we just adopted some street width requirements and stuff, but just give us some clarification on whether or not those designated areas will promote some on-street parking, or if we need to reassess the street widths or the right-of-ways and stuff.
Well, it's a good point in the fact that we've amended the thoroughfare sections themselves a little bit. So previously, what we saw pretty quick is the requirement was to have on-street parking, which adds that extra parking component, as well as that was an additional lane width. So you kind of had the lane width of 4 vehicles if you had parking on the street from both sides, and you kept your travel lane free and clear, is what you're not seeing in older neighborhoods where they're just kind of clogging up because they don't have that. But what we found out is when you start getting into a 65-foot wide lot, or even 65 would be the smallest, but by the time you add a driveway in there, there wasn't really adequate spacing between the driveways to start seeing the on-street parking. So it was pretty lacking. Then we got into the point where now if you are front-loaded, you don't have to have the on-street parking on the front. So I think the parking ratio just didn't catch up with those thoroughfare corrections. So this is a good time just to adjust for that.
That sounds good. Yeah, I've heard, not just on the agendas tonight, but specifically, I think it's called Pope Place out there off of
Theta Pike.
Theta Pike. I've had somebody I know that's complained about the minimum parking requirements and the issues they're running into there. So, we get it.
I think that one was 2 spaces per unit.
It is 2.
I'm just saying, so take that into consideration, I guess, while we're looking at, maybe, this too, I guess. So, and I think it may be on bedroom space. I don't know. That's something for y'all to look at and maybe give us some.
The bedrooms might be a little tricky, but
it's also worth noting that whenever you look at different street fronts, a lot of the time there's a psychological effect that having side parking, like on-street parking does. So if you allow for that, like innately you're going to slow down. Like you're not generally going to speed through if there's cars on either side because you're just more mindful generally. So it's good to think about the psychological effect of that too.
And then I had one more item.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So Douglas Tony is here. He's got some handouts for you, I believe. But we did have a previous approval for Columbia Commons, which is the old Sloan Ford site.
Okay.
Inside that approval there was a lot of talks between staff and the applicant with regards to what kind of access they would be having for that. What got approved by Planning Commission, we moved forward with to Region 3 TDOT. They had a little bit different idea of what to do with that access point that involved the median, the Columbia Commons access, and then also the adjacent road, well, I guess the abutting road, adjoining road, Thomas, actually, across the street, Thomas Avenue. And so we just wanted to just kind of show you that you're not surprised that this is what TDOT has said that they would support for the development there, which is going to be a little different than what you saw.
Okay. So, and just what we're looking at today, I guess we'll get a final plat later that we'll look at. And so when you say we're not going to be surprised.
Have we done a final plat on this one?
It's already
I can't remember.
platted?
We have already
Okay.
approved the
This is a
preliminary.
revision of what we approved.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, well, on the access. So it doesn't really affect the lots per se, but it's just the access on the state road.
Okay.
I've had a tough day.
Davis, would you like to just to highlight those changes?
Sure. On the handouts in front of you, there's the previously approved or what the city recommended to TDOT to move through. That's without the concrete median pork chop in the median, which restricts that turning movement to left only. TDOT took exception to the proximity of the right out from their site access and the proximity of that to the median opening and the possibility for an illegal turning movement, a wrong way sort of turning movement there. City staff tried to work with the applicant and TDOT to try and modify that as best as we could to alleviate those concerns from TDOT. They were not satisfied with the changes that the city suggested and that the applicant presented. And so we moved forward to the alternate design, which has the raised concrete median inside of the median opening, which effectively turns that into kind of a J-turn style intersection. As of note, it will have an effect on the intersection across the street. I believe it's Nicholas Long, Thomas
Avenue.
That will no longer have a left out onto James Campbell Boulevard with this change. Ultimately, it's TDOT's roadway. This is the access that they were comfortable with, and we have to defer to their judgment on the matter in regulating their roadway.
So on that note, at least on the Sloan Ford lot there, really on the lot part, it was either way, it was going to be kind of a right in, right out right there.
It was always intended to be a right in, right out with the allowance for a left in off of James Campbell.
Okay.
Yes.
Now what TDOT's requiring is in that median, making it, like you said, kind of similar to a J-turn, which in effect makes Thomas Avenue to the north when you're coming down there and leaving being a right out only.
It would be the same configuration as more or less what you're seeing with the site access. Yeah. Of note, with this sort of prescribed change, the city and TDOT were pretty adamant about the inclusion of an additional left turn lane onto Thomas. which will have a beneficial effect for those folks trying to turn off of James Campbell and into onto Thomas.
Okay.
Nicholas Long, yeah, it changes right there.
So just a clarification on the north side where Thomas would now become a, for lack of a better word, a ride out only. Will there be a concrete curbing or some kind of redesign there where the street now is just open? You kind of, you're looking at the intersection there. So
There would not be. As of right now, those the sort of adjoining businesses are right up against the roadway and the edge of the right of way, and there is not adequate provision to modify that portion of the roadway and get that in. There will be some modification to striping and signage that will indicate as well. The concrete median is there to deter illegal movements.
okay, got it. So there'd just be striping and signage and stuff. Okay,
That's correct.
It would take an illegal movement in order to actually go against and actually turn
Yeah,
back
it
left, right?
would be, you'd have to try to, you'd be pretty well aware of what
Yeah.
you're doing.
we won't assume that those illegal moves don't occur.
Definitely not.
Yeah, but this is really just noting for us, nothing to vote on, nothing to
No, sir.
consider. It's
It's
just a
just
TDOT requirement.
We just wanted to inform you, so if you're driving past the site, you weren't surprised.
Okay, thank you for the information.
You're welcome.
Any other business? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We'll call the vote.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Sanders,
Aye.
Mr. Sloan,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Goode,
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.